This week on Monday, we celebrated a national holiday. Who did we celebrate on Monday? St. Martin Luther King Jr. Have you seen the movie that's out in theaters now, Selma? It's a story of that civil rights situation in the middle of which he found himself in the 1960s. Any of us old enough to remember the 1960s? Perhaps you've heard the stories of how our parents and grandparents, here in Austin even, were not allowed to go into some restaurants simply because of the color of their skin. Have you heard those stories? How they were served out of side windows or back doors, but they couldn't go into those restaurants because of the color of their skin. People looked at one another back then, and they were so superficial. All they saw was what is on the outside. And they saw how it is that we're different on the outside, like M&Ms. Have you ever thought about that? M&Ms are all different on the outside. What are they like on the inside? Hello? Right? Different colors on the outside, but how it is that we're all the same on the inside. How interesting that back then we were looking at one another, and based on what we saw, we started dividing ourselves into groups. Us versus them. They are not like us, and they can't be part of our group. This is nothing new, amen? We've been doing this as people for centuries. Which is why Jonah in today's first reading, we know that Jonah lived in the 700s BC. That was a long time ago. And even back then, Jonah was saying, I don't want to preach to them, the Ninevites, because we don't like them. Yikes. It's nothing new, is it? This us versus them. And so Jonah tried to do all that he could not to have to preach to the Ninevites, ran away from God, was swallowed by a whale. What do we find in today's reading? He's preaching to the Ninevites. He's giving in to this inclusive vision of God. That all of us, it's not us versus them, but that we're called to be one. All of us. Jews or Ninevites. We're all called to be one. Today's gospel, did you catch who Jesus called in today's gospel? Did he call the chief priests of his day? No. Did he call shepherds? No. Who did he call? He called fishermen. What did fishermen back then do? They threw out their nets and they drug in the fish that were caught in the net. Okay, imagine being a fisherman or a fisherwoman for a moment. You throw out your net. Are you choosing who gets caught in the net? No. You throw out the net and whoever gets caught, sorry people, you're caught. It's not choosing, well, I'll catch Jerry, but not Terry. Right? Wait a minute. I'll catch Jerry and Ducky, but Terry, no. When you throw out your nets, what happens? You're throwing out the net. What a great, inclusive symbol of how it is that God's kingdom is. That God throws out the nets and God desires to bring all of us into God's kingdom, into God's boat. Brothers and sisters, how inclusive are we being? Are we throwing out our love like those nets to all people? Or are we being more exclusive like Jonah and saying, I don't love those people. I don't love him or her. Are we throwing out our nets of love to all people? Or are we picking and choosing? Well, I'll love her and him, but not him or her. Is that Jesus' message? Brothers and sisters, think for a moment of your own family. Who in your own family are you not loving like you should? Who among your friends or among your enemies, us versus them, who are you not loving as you might? In your workplace, in your school, who you're not throwing out the nets of your love to, and who you're not bringing in. Brothers and sisters, Jesus never promised us a rose garden. Never said it was going to be easy. But his gospel message is not one of picking and choosing who you love. It's about throwing out the nets to all, like Jonah in his preaching to the people of Nineveh, and letting God draw them in. This is Father Jamie's Sunday Sermon. Watch it, like it, share it, live it, go.